No, it was down. I mean, when it hit the tree, it hit the ground and just rolled right back.
Yeah, I've done it. There it is, sitting at my feet again.
Mm-hmm. And we go get your bag.
Yes, please.
And the bag, the purse is sitting there.
Still don't have
There's
my
a bag,
Got
glasses.
another bag.
Yeah, a bag with all
They're gonna
the,
be mailed to me, they
Your
said.
glasses, huh?
uh-huh,
Oh,
from the VA.
Huh. So they make glasses?
No. They just, they just fit you for them.
Somebody else
Prescription.
makes them, and that's why they mail them.
Hmm.
Yeah.
'Cause
I
it's
think
some,
Jackie got some. I think they come out of Texas.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it took forever, because they were having the floods and junk down in Texas. So when a couple months ago, I said, "Where's my glasses?" Oh, well, they're making them, and they're
Yeah.
here.
Over the years, I went to Sutherland's down here in downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what street they're on, but they do work for shops, for doctor's offices, and they will also do for people off the street. And I found them reasonable. They're nothing like when I was a child and I started wearing glasses.
and they were,
$2.50 optical company.
they were glass. You dropped them, they broke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
$2.50 for a pair of glasses when I was a child.
Gosh,
Yeah,
that's
and
amazing.
then it was $3.50. Then it was $4.50, and then it was $400.
Yeah.
And I said, when bread got over 72 cents a loaf, I was never gonna buy bread again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, well.
yeah.
Yeah,
The bread we buy is, if it's in the grocery store, it's over $5 a loaf.
Yeah.
I go to Walmart and I get 2 loaves for $4.
Yep.
Which brings it down to $2 a loaf.
what kind of bread is it?
Oh, wheat nut. Something.
Oat nut, oat nut.
Oat nut wheat bread.
Thank you, sweetheart. It's awful sweet of you.
And when I was in Lincoln, I used to go to Hy-Vee, and when I got down here, they built onto the Hy-Vee store and made it practically a city out of it, and the prices got so high. I picked up a little green bell pepper, $2.50. I put it back. I went over to Walmart. I got this big fat green one for 89 cents. That was when I stopped shopping over there. The only thing I can't get is lactate-free ice cream. I have to go to Walmart or to Hy-Vee for that.
That makes me wonder. When I was growing up, I couldn't drink milk without chocolate syrup, otherwise my mouth would... And I always figured it was part lactate and the sugar helped cut it. So, I don't know.
Okay.
What else do I want? Anything? No.
We need our copies.
No. Okay.
Or is that last week's copy? We aren't
This is
done?
last week's. Yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't finish last week's.
Right.
Um,
I marked one of them.
The end
Yeah.
of fundamentalism.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I think we marked both of them.
Did I?
What page is that?
117.
Chris, would you tell Sue
28.
that we're starting?
It's page 117.
117.
Looks like that.
Well, that's right. Good.
We've got marked 128.
128,
That's sower.
okay,
We're going to flashlight, please.
123,
I told her she'd be here tonight. Finishing up that food.
Okay.
124, the New Testament, does that look like it?
Did we do the prodigal son? Do you remember the
We did
prodigal
the
son?
prodigal son, yes.
Okay. Did we get Lazarus done?
Yeah, we talked about eating corn husks last week, yeah.
Okay.
The next one is the sower. Yeah,
Wait a minute.
I wasn't sure that we finished that we did Lazarus.
we didn't do Lazarus. I don't think.
Okay.
Where's that at?
I know I have a
Page
different,
128.
I have a different take on Lazarus than
Yeah, I've got
128.
most
128.
people
Yeah,
look at.
that's what I have marked.
Yeah, well, he was a deadbeat.
He was.
Lazarus? He was a priest.
He was a deadbeat.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, this
You know, it said that Jesus delayed 4 days.
'Cause he was
That
sleeping.
wasn't to be sure he was dead. Jesus delayed 4 days because in the priesthood then, they trained to go into a cave where there was no light and no sound and make the trip across to the Netherland and then come back alive again. And he knew if he interrupted Lazarus while Lazarus was doing this, he wouldn't be able to get back. So that's the part they didn't put in there.
Fundamentalists
And then,
wouldn't
well, and
allow
then
it.
Jesus was in the cave for 3 days.
So is that where we're gonna start a case study, raising of Lazarus?
And this was the practice of every priesthood in the Middle
Are they
East.
ever?
Is that
That's where we're going to start, yeah.
Okay.
A case study, the raising of Lazarus.
All right, where are you, light? Come on.
Did we do the sower at the top of the page? It's very short.
I don't know if you got that, do you?
Because we didn't take it out.
Yeah, the page before is the prodigal son, and then there's this little piece of sower. So I'll start at 128.
Okay.
Another familiar parable is the one involving the sower who sows the word. The Greek term is logos, on various soils. The true esoteric or allegorical meaning, once again, has to do with the theme of incarnation. The ancient Stoics believed there was a seed of the divine mind, or logos, in every human being. They even called this the spermatikos logos, the seed logos, spermatikos logos. And the gospel story reflects a similar belief. God, the true sower, casts the divine seed into every heart. But success is determined by the soils, that is, the kind of response and lives lived as a result. The message is, be the best soil. In other words, wake up to who and what you really are. Become it.
Yeah.
Be the best dirt you can be.
Okay.
Apparently, when I was a child, that was my goal.
That's what you do, dig in the dirt all the time.
I played often with a kid named Bobby. And my mother used to say, Billy, how come you come home all covered in dirt and Bobby comes down the street and he's spotless?
Yep.
He didn't do anything. He watched.
Oh, he watched.
I had a friend like that.
And I'd go, I'd get into it up to my,
Well, yeah.
up to my knuckles.
You know,
Build something.
We used to wear
Yeah.
white buck shoes. You remember white buck shoes?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had them.
Yeah, I did too. And mine were always dirty. And my girlfriend Lila, hers were spotless.
Yeah.
I got no idea how we did that or how I did that.
How you got yours all dirty?
Yeah, and dripped ice cream on them and all sorts of stuff. And
Yeah.
Lila never got a grain of dust on hers.
Uh-huh, that's Bobby.
Yeah,
It's the kind of kid you want to strangle.
well, and then we had that saying that you have to eat a bushel of dirt before you die.
Yeah,
So I figured we hadn't had our bushel of dirt yet, so it was okay.
yeah,
I
exactly.
never heard that one. My son, when his first little girl was born, when she was big enough to play in the dirt, he used to say, because she would get stuff in her mouth, he called it her dirt vaccine.
Yeah,
Because kids that get dirty are healthier.
yeah, you give your immune system exercise. We're too clean in this country compared to other countries. You know, they got immune systems that would knock over a horse.
I do have a suggestion.
You do?
Yeah. It's nice to read these short, pithy interpretations of them, but how much better it would be to read the real story and then read this.
Oh, I see.
You could do that over a long period of time. However, you could do on a day just one story and see it from both sides, what it looks like on the page of the Bible, and then
What it means.
how he's interpreted it. And you start to see how the symbolism works.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to the point where you know the symbolism.
Yeah.
It's automatic.
Yeah.
It's a language. And it's like learning to speak French or Italian or German. I have a thing with Spanish. I don't like the sound of the language.
Oh, really?
My whole life, I don't like the sound of it. And somebody said, Spanish Inquisition.
You know, they have a Spanish music show on 91.9, which is the classical station. And in Sunday afternoons, they have Spanish music, Spanish composers and so forth. And that announcer drives me nuts.
I don't listen to it, so I don't know who that
There's
is.
some kind of about it.
Is he Hispanic?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how that language sounds.
To me, it sounds like a machine gun,
It does.
and it's
Yeah.
beating at me. And sometimes, it's irrational, but sometimes it just makes me angry.
Yeah,
It just triggers something.
yeah, yeah.
I got to take 2 years of Latin.
Oh,
I
yeah.
took 2 years of Latin.
Did you?
Uh-huh. Best thing I ever did.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I took 2 years of French. So I had 4 years in high school.
Samo, ama, samada, mamu, samada, samant.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, we love, you love, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Never forget
Te
the
amo.
word agricola.
Yo te amo. I
Farmer.
love you. Yeah, yeah.
Agricola. Navata.
Tempus fugit.
Yes.
Time flies.
Mother used to say that constantly.
What,
Yeah.
Navita?
Navata.
Had
no.
a,
Tempus
had a
fugit,
neighbor
she
who
said.
used to
Tempest.
say,
Navata.
you can't, their flight is too erratic.
Sailor.
And
Yeah.
I thought he was saying their
Navata
flight
is
is to
pukra.
our attic.
Is both beautiful?
And that made no sense.
No sense. Yeah, yeah.
Not a sailor. Not a sailor.
Not a sailor? Oh, yeah. A sailor is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody want to start raising Lazarus? He's not heavy, he's your brother.
Since I want you to know as intimately as possible what was going on in my own mind as I wrestled with all of this material, I think it's useful to examine the most striking of all the New Testament miracles attributed to Jesus. The story of the raising of Lazarus is well known in some circles, but you need to be truly familiar with it for the discussion that follows. Here it is, then, John chapter 11, taken from the King James Version.
See, now this is he's seeing the value of putting the Bible text then
Right next.
against or with The
Right. Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus of Bethany, a town of Mary and her sister Martha. Therefore his sisters sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. When he had heard therefore that he, Lazarus, was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. Then after that saith to his disciples, Let's go into Judea again. These things said he. And after that he saith unto them, Our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go that I may awake him out of sleep.
and said his disciples, Lord, if he sleep, he shall do well. Howbeit Jesus spake of his death, but they thought that he had spoken of taking of rest in sleep. Then said Jesus unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. Well, couldn't you have said it a different way?
Softened it a little.
Yeah. And I am glad for your sakes that I was not there. Well, wait a minute. Then said Thomas, which is called Didymus, unto his fellow disciples, Let us also go, that we may die with him. No fool. Then when Jesus came, he found that he had lain in the grave 4 days already. Now Bethany was nigh unto Jerusalem, about 15 furlongs. And many of the Jews came to Mary and Martha and Mary, to comfort them concerning their brother. Then Martha, as soon as she heard that Jesus was coming, went and met him, but Mary sat still in the house. Then said Martha unto Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. But I know that even now, whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it thee. Jesus saith unto her, My brother shall rise again. Martha saith unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. Jesus said unto her, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? She said unto him, Yea, Lord, I believe thou art the Christ. I think she probably said, I believe.
You know, she's the first one that said that, not
Yep.
Peter.
Yep.
But it's attributed to Peter that he was the first one that said you are the Christ.
Poor Peter. Seconded everything.
Yeah.
Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world. And when she had so said, she went her way and called Mary, her sister, secretly, saying, The Master is come, and calleth for thee. As soon as she heard that, she arose quickly and came unto him. Now Jesus was not come unto the town, but was in that place where Martha met him. The Jews then which were with her in the house, and comforted her, when they saw Mary, that she rose up hastily and went out, followed her, saying, She goeth unto the grave to weep there. Then when Mary was come with Jesus, where Jesus was, and saw him, she fell down at his feet, saying unto him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother had not died. A little guilt there. Lord, when Jesus therefore saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping, which came with her, he groaned in the spirit. I think it was that.
How does the spirit groan?
I don't know. I think
don't
it
know
would
what
be
that sounds like.
exasperation.
Yeah, I
you
don't know
know.
what that is.
Are you never going to get it?
Yeah,
Groaned in the spirit and was troubled, and said, Where have ye laid him? They said unto him, Lord, come see. And Jesus wept. Shortest sentence in the Bible. Still is. Jesus wept. Then said the Jews, Behold how he loved him. And some of them said, Could not this man, which opened the eyes of the blind, have caused that even this man should not have died?
Why did Jesus weep when he knew better?
why did he what?
Why did he weep when he knew that Lazarus was not dead?
Well, somebody wrote this.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what somebody thought you would do. You
I
know.
see.
They're
Okay.
trying to show that Jesus was human or something.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Jesus, therefore, again groaning to himself, cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Jesus said, Take ye away the stone. Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto him, I love this part,
I love this part.
Lord, by this time he stinketh, for he had been dead 4 days. Jesus said unto her, Said I not unto thee, if thou wouldst believe, thou shouldst see the glory of God? Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead was laid. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Lord, what a stench!
Yeah, with a clothespin on his nose.
I thank thee that thou hast heard me, and I know that thou hearest me always. Those two sentences,
Yeah.
they have been in my mind for years.
Yeah, yeah. Thou hearest me always.
Yes.
So I got to watch what I say.
So many times we think God is someplace else and he doesn't hear us, doesn't whatever. I know that thou hearest me now, and thou hearest me always. Always.
But because
But because of the people which stand by, I said it, that they may believe that thou hast sent me. And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth, bound hand and foot with grave clothes, and his face was bound about with a napkin. Jesus saith unto him, Loose him, and let him go. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Jesus did, believed on him.
Yeah. And
Somebody want to take over?
Okay. Let me say from the outset that this entire chapter, with its detailed account of the raising of Lazarus, was always problematic to me, both a student and later a professor of the New Testament. It is set out in John as the last and crowning sign of the series of 7 signs.
Yep.
Beginning with the changing of water into wine at the very outset of the gospel, intended to convince the reader that Jesus is indeed the Messiah and the Son of God. In particular, it sets up the key saying about Jesus being the resurrection and the life. He is the one who can make the dead live again. Yet several things about the story had disturbed me long before I was made aware of its Egyptian antecedents. First, the raising of Lazarus is presented in the gospel as being the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back. Jewish authorities in the story are so shocked by it and so afraid that the whole world will be convinced by it, to put the point that the Roman authorities will be provoked and take violent repressive action, that they immediately plot to get rid of Jesus once and for all. The raising of Lazarus, then, is purported to be the immediate cause of the crucifixion. Yet this flatly contradicts the picture given in the 3 synoptic gospels. There, Jesus' arrest, trial, and execution are quite plainly said to be the result of the anger the angst and anger of the authorities over his clear cleansing of the temple. Mark puts it thus, and the scribes and the chief priests heard about the temple cleansing and his remark about their having made God's house a den of thieves, and sought how they might destroy him, for they feared him, because all the people were astonished at his doctrine. Both versions cannot be sustained together. The gap is too great. Interestingly, the temple cleansing comes right at the beginning of Jesus' public ministry according to John's Gospel, but is placed right at the end of it by Matthew, Mark, and Luke.
Second, it has always seemed to me inexplicable that this spectacular story of Lazarus, had it been historical, would have been so thoroughly overlooked by the other three evangelists and their schools. Yet the story appears solely in the fourth gospel. Such a momentous proof of superhuman divine power could never have been kept hidden from others. Indeed, as we have seen, it was its very celebrity, even among Jesus' enemies, that led to the cross, according to John. It seems certain to me, then, that the miracle is not in Matthew, Mark, or Luke, because these authors knew nothing whatever about it. It was not part of the common tradition. It bears the feel and character of allegory and myth. Third, the secular witnesses were noticeably silent. If we recall the alleged opening of the tombs on that first Good Friday, recorded only in Matthew, when the graves were opened and many bodies of the saints which slept arose and came out of the graves after his resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared unto many, we must conclude that this kind of public wonder-working would certainly not have escaped the numerous secular chroniclers, historians, and other witnesses of the day. But there's not a word of secular or Jewish comment on it anywhere to be found. It was thus all a serious puzzle for me when I took the widely accepted historical critical approach to it as a New Testament scholar. However, once I came across the researches of Massey, Kuhn, and other scholars, with their deep knowledge of ancient linguistics and insights into Egyptian mythology, the puzzle wholly disappeared. It became crystal clear to me that John's narrative at this point is lifted straight from ancient themes and then reworked to fit his own overall schema and purposes. Read allegorically, the way it is told in the Egyptian sources, this story is no problem. Read as history, it's a plagiaristic, though well-meaning, forgery. It creates insurmountable difficulties for reasonable, educated people today. Consider this a form of detective work for a few moments and see how scholarly analysis reveals the true meaning of what is going on. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, Anu, called Heliopolis in Greek, meaning city of the sun, was the theological name of an actual Egyptian city where the rites of the death, burial, and resurrection of Osiris or Horus were enacted each year. The name is a combination of Nu, the name for Mother Heaven, or primal empty space, the abyss of nothingness, and the alpha privative, hence Anu, or not nothingness. A world of concrete actuality, the world of substantial manifestation. In other words, Anu was precisely a place where units of divine consciousness or souls go to their symbolic death in every human incarnation and later rise again to glory. Anu was called, among other things, the place of multiplying bread. Significantly, Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus, means the house of bread. We will not stop here, tempted though we may be, to show the intimate connections between this concept and the gospel Christ, who multiplies loaves and fishes for the crowds. The Hebrews added their prefix for house, Beth, to Anu, and produced Bethanu, or the house of Anu. But because the U and the Y were interchangeable in antiquity, we ended up with the New Testament counterpart, Bethany. The point here is that when we read the Egyptian text, we find that the Egyptian Christ, Horus, performed a great miracle at Anu, or Bethany. He raised his father Osiris from the dead, calling unto him in the cave to rise and come forth. Wow, I've heard that before.
Yes.
These clues help us solve the question of who Lazarus was originally. According to Egyptologist Sir Wallace Budge, as well as my major sources and other eminent authorities on the texts, the ancient name for Osiris was Asar. The Egyptians regularly expressed their reverence by placing the definite article the before the names of their gods, just as Christians say, or should say, the Christ. The Egyptians said the Osiris, but that was the equivalent of saying Lord Osiris. When the Hebrews took up the name of the Osiris, or Lord Osiris, they used the Hebrew word for Lord, El, hence El Asar. Later on, the Romans, speaking Latin of course, took El Asar and added the us, ending used the U, and added the us, the us ending used for most male names. The result was Elasaris. Elasaris. In time, the initial E wore off. Lazarus, as linguists describe it, and the S in Asar changed to Z. Azar, yeah. Lazarus. The Osiris of the Beth Anu story. So it is that, beginning with Massey, these scholars convincingly conclude that Jesus' raising of Lazarus at Bethany is, quote, but a rescript of the old Egyptian drama mystery in which Horus the Christ raised his dead father Osiris from the grave, end quote. It is written in the hieroglyphics that Horus followed the divine Mary to the place where Asar, or Osiris, lay buried in his tomb, just as Jesus followed Mary, who had come forth to meet him on the way to Bethany. The most important point is that this Egyptian recital was in the papyri perhaps as long as 5,000 years BCE. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so who was his dead father Osiris? Yeah, he raised his dead father. Doesn't tell us much about that. Unless you'd think it was Joseph in the New Testament.
That would be interesting.
So that's another one to trip over.
Yeah. These are powerful. They really are. Further evidence of similarities between the ancient myth and the gospel account is found in the plentiful references in the gospel story to mourning and weeping at the home and the grave of Lazarus. The Jews who were there to comfort the sisters were weeping, we are told, as was Mary. And then we have the ringing, famous words, Jesus wept. But the Bethany, or Bethanu, of the Egyptian story was known long before as the place of weeping. As Kuhn notes, Isis and her divine sister, Nephthys, Jesus and Horus, Mary and Martha, all wept over the inert Lord, Lazarus. Those two divine sisters, Isis and Nephthys, are also significant. An old source name for Isis was Mary, M-E-R-I, like the Latin word mare, the sea, the primitive source of all life. The Egyptian plural of Mary, M-E-R-I, however, was Merti, M-E-R-T-I. In the Latin feminine form, this became Mertai, M-E-R-T-A-E. In Hebrew, it resolved into what was rendered in English as Martha. So even in the ancient Egyptian transaction, there were also present the two Marys, or Mary and Martha, the sisters of Lazarus. My word. Can't we have anything this ours? One final detail. In the Johannine account, Jesus makes the surprising assertion that Lazarus is not dead, but only sleeping. The same thing was said many centuries earlier in the ancient scripts of Osiris in Egypt. Quote, that is, Osiris who is not dead but sleeping in Anu, the place of his repose, waiting the call that bids him come forth today. In the text of the Har Hatep, the speaker who personates Horus in the drama is he who comes to awaken Osiris, out of his sleep. What are we to make of this recondite but almost exact parallel between the two texts, the Egyptian and the Johannine? The conclusion seems inevitable to me. The Egyptian ritual was certainly mythical in character. That is, was intended to celebrate the eventual resurrection to radiant glory of the individual's true self, the inner Christ. Similarly, the author, editor of John, had no intent to deceive the reader with false history. The purpose, rather, was exactly the same, to convey to the vivid context of a fictional story, the esoteric spiritual truth of our own final victory over the grave itself, our resurrection. It was a vital part of the drama in this particularly Jewish version of the eternal myth. The thing that moves me most about such an approach, and that fills me with fresh optimism for a more profound understanding of the whole Jesus story, is that what is simply incredible as history suddenly becomes dazzlingly alive with spiritual meanings, as relevant as one's next breath. It was becoming increasingly obvious to me as I read on that what we need today is not a further rationalizing and mythologizing of the Bible accounts, but rather a mythologizing of them in order to see their eternal significance as we have never seen it before. The need is not to peel away the myth, as I used to think, but to use it to penetrate to the spiritual heart of what it has always been trying to tell us.
You know, another thing that sort of struck me was the first time the word resurrection comes up in the Gospels was with Martha and Mary, and that was before we hear anything about a resurrection of Jesus out of the tomb. So there, that word came up before it was
been
even
popped out so
yeah,
many times.
So I say these editors and so forth
Yeah.
didn't know what they were talking about. They didn't know what to put in and take out.
It's like they drop in resurrection. Remember this. Resurrection. You're going to hear more about this. Resurrection. This is an important thing to realize.
Yeah, nobody's done it before Jesus. And so how did it become a word? Yeah. So that just popped up for me as we were reading this, that wait a minute, Martha was the one that declared Jesus the Christ, the Son of the living God.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know whether it was Mary or Martha mentioned, I know you are the Christ and the resurrection, blah, 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 in there. That was all before anything. Before Peter declared Jesus as the Christ, before the crucifixion and resurrection, all of that got stuck in a head out of order.
They were women. They were women. You don't pay attention to what women say.
That's right.
I mean, I know about that, right?
Well, and who did Jesus send out to tell everybody? Mary Magdalene. Yeah. Who did he appear to first? Mary Magdalene.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Whoa.
No.
This is some real stuff.
But it's very complicated.
At first, yeah, because it's not what we've known for or believed for years and years and years. So all of a sudden we have to find some way to rationalize the two. Or actually, I think the best way is to dump the garbage we've been taught for years because it's wrong.
Then what do you believe?
Well, what these things say. This is a good Bible. The Egyptians believed in the immortality of the soul and its final glorious spiritual resurrection from the very dawn of time. If you really accept this and it becomes a part of you, are you afraid of dying?
No.
Yeah.
A lot of the fear of dying with people is the fear of the pain and illness that comes before dying in our cultures. Yeah. A lot of those people say, I'd rather die than go through this.
Yeah.
And so there doesn't seem to be any fear of dying. It's just the pain getting there.
Yeah, my grandfather asked my uncle to throw him out the window in the nursing home
Yeah. Yeah.
because he
Get
he was-
over this.
He had had a stroke, so he couldn't walk. He was, his talking was a little difficult because one side was paralyzed.
It makes you wonder why they make laws against assisted suicide.
Yeah.
There's another one of those things that takes our freedom away from us to determine for ourselves what our lives are going to be.
And besides the law, the church has made it a sin
Yeah,
to do it yourself.
yeah. So you keep on paying taxes to the church.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
If someone has terminal cancer and is in all this horrible pain, why can't they leave this planet? Why can't they leave that?
Yeah.
Leave that in the street somewhere instead of having to suffer and suffer and suffer until that's why.
In one of our states, it's legal, and I don't know
Yeah.
which one, but I saw a whole documentary on it where this man knew that he was, I don't know whether it was LS or what it was, but he named the date that he was going to commit suicide, and he had a doctor who gave him what he needed to do that. He had his whole family gathered around them, and for a whole year they celebrated his life.
Yeah.
And then at one point on that day, he asked them all to leave the house so that they couldn't be legally
Yeah.
punished.
Yeah.
And then he took the medication and he went. But they had a whole year to celebrate his life before he decided when he would go.
Sure.
It was a beautiful documentary.
The,
Well, besides fearing the pain of illness prior to death, there was the abhorrence of the idea that
going to hell
You
and
were-
burn.
you were gone forever.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, that was the end of everything. That was a belief amongst people.
yeah. And what happened to eternal life?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We have thrown those words around so much,
Yeah.
and yet we have failed to actually accept them for ourselves.
Or understand what it really means.
It is. I never had anybody put the thing together where we start off at a spiritual nature. Now, we started talking about that in the beginning.
Yeah,
So we're spirit. And then we descend to this plane, into physicality, which in a way it's death to that spiritual side, but it's a whole new ballgame for us with new joys and pleasures and all kinds of things. And then instead of dying and getting shoved in the ground in a hole forever,
letting the worms eat you.
what we call the dying is simply what came down goes back up.
Yeah, another one of our great mysteries is, why is this the only planet
Yeah,
where this can happen?
exactly.
Yeah,
And maybe it's not, because we don't know what goes on out in all of those, but
No,
we
but-
can't get there.
we can't get there, we can't find it. You know, the James Webb Telescope now takes us almost back to the Big Bang.
Yep.
And the thousands and thousands of solar systems and so forth that are out there. And there's not one where we can find one that would sustain life as we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing that's like, okay, why this place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what? The Bible says it somewhere. It's about what descends from heaven, returns to heaven. And that's maybe a corrupt. I'll have to try and find that.
Yeah.
I don't know where it is. But I've run across it and I've just not paid attention to it. And now it makes sense, because that's what happens. And I don't know about you, but now that the piece has been added, that we come down, it's like a death from that into this place, but then it's a whole new world to experience. And then when we're done, we cast off the vehicle. It's like you go to the moon, you got to wear a big suit.
Yep.
But when you get back on the
Spaceship.
spaceship, yeah, you don't need the suit anymore. You take the suit off.
Yeah.
And you go home. And that's kind
Yeah.
we go back and forth, and it makes sense too with the fact that we're progressing. That's our task, is to progress in spiritual awareness, consciousness, in our awareness of the power and presence of God in us, and allowing that to work through us. In that process, we have lessons on these two planes.
Yeah.
And it's like school, you know? We do so much, and it's time to go maybe chew on that for a while till it becomes our own, and then come back and do some more.
When people hear that, they have a sense of the truth of it. There was an episode of MASH, And it's listed as the best ever episode of MASH, and that's where Father Mulcahy said, I believe we're here I believe God placed us here so that he himself could be here. And to have everybody who sees MASH list that as the best ever episode, there was that powerful spiritual truth right there that everybody kind of recognized, maybe not intellectually, but all of a sudden the truth hit them. And so when I looked at it, you can look it up on Google.
Your task is to find that episode. She's got all of them.
Yeah, well, in Google, it'll tell you which episode it is,
Okay.
because I've got that written down, and then it comes up, and you can click on it, and you can watch the whole thing. But it's amazing what that actor does with that.
What would be the question I would have to ask Google? What?
So he himself could be here in MASH. But it'll give you all the MASH episodes. It'll list that one because it is listed as the best ever.
Best ever.
And all you have to do is
Okay.
put best ever MASH in there, and I think you'll get it quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I forget, help me remember. Best ever.
I don't know how to play those without,
This is
My
this stuff is the first time it's actually coming together for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I had this piece and that piece. I didn't know how they fit. I didn't know if they were right. They made sense. The things we've heard.
Yeah.
That, well, eternal life. Oh, wait a minute. If you die, that's not eternal life, is it?
But
No.
that's just your material self.
Yeah.
It's not your spirit.
But early on, we were pretty much taught somebody was he was sort of a politician. He ran certain parts of our town. I don't remember what part of it, but he was in the government of the town, and he lived near me, and he used to say, "Well, we're all worm poo anyway." I mean, and he was a good Catholic,
Okay.
but he didn't get the concept of there's more. That we have divinity in us, that we're destined to far more than just this life. And once I started seeing coming down, going back, I mean, it's just an elevator ride.
Yeah, and I extrapolated that to quantum physics, where God is the wave, and we are the particle that it forms into, and then we die, we are the wave again, and then the particle again. Yeah, I mean, quantum physics says
that
it
makes
is-
such good
Yeah,
sense.
it does.
Yeah.
I have an affirmation card that puts out the idea that this planet is heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that our lives are heaven on earth right now. And I've used that affirmation a lot when things get a little screwy, that this is heaven on earth.
There's a hymn, the heaven is here.
Yeah, within you, at
It
hand.
starts with that heaven is here. And it is, if you choose it to be. If
Well, and
your
that's
consciousness.
another truth that hits people, because I was in Trader Joe's and this guy came out of the back room and he was all fussed and so forth, kind of almost ran into my cart, said, "Oh, pardon me," and so forth, and I followed him down the aisle, put my hand on his arm, and I said, "This is heaven on earth." He said, "What?" I said, "This is heaven on earth." He said, "Yeah, you're right. This is heaven on earth. I have to use that." I mean, it's that kind of thing that just goes ping on people. Yeah.
I have been in places, in groups, that really felt like this is what heaven would be like. I mean, things were so good.
Yeah.
So supportive and loving.
Harmonized.
Harmony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
it could just imagine what it would be like if this world were everyone had reached enlightenment. That'd be pretty wonderful.
Yeah.
Instead of just the 5 of us.
That's a lot for us to do, God. Could we get a little help down here?
Yeah, but we're on our way. Don't you feel like it?
This is what Barbara Marx Hubbard always taught. She was a futurist, and she was seeing that complete transformation, and she was so sure it was coming in her lifetime. So she died about 8 years ago. But I thought, Barbara, if you'd have stayed here to see what's happening now, this is not what you would want to see. But she was seeing that transformation, that whole noosphere turning into light, and that's what she taught. She'd stand up on that platform and talk for 2 hours without notes, just talking about this and just mesmerize everybody at convention. Yeah.
Yeah, there are parts of us that have run screaming out in the world to get away from this stuff, releasing it, letting it go, letting all the old restrictions and lies. I mean, they were lies.
Yeah.
There've been a lot of lies.
Now we know why those priests went into the cave for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Lord knows what they'd have thought if they knew what was going to be written about them in the Christian Gospels. Herg, they probably wouldn't have come out of the cave.
Let's see. Jackie, do you remember where I stopped?
I think we're down to the last paragraph
And we're on
on 115.
Yeah, and that's
On
the last,
135, I
It's
mean.
the end of the chapter.
The Egyptians believed in the immortality of the soul.
Ah.
Wow.
Yep.
Thousands of years ago, they believed in it. And it's taken us this long to start to get a grasp of it. Thank you. Believed in the immortality of the soul and its final glorious spiritual resurrection from the very dawn of time. That's a big sentence. That's very meaningful. The story of Osiris Lazarus dominated not just their religious thinking, but that of the entire Greco-Roman world prior to what we now call the Christian era. So, that thinking was in the entire Greco-Roman world prior to what we now call the Christian era. And what happened to it? To see it reflected in the gospel, as we have done, is not to debunk the New Testament. Rather, it is to ground it and the hope of the resurrection message ever more firmly in the wider, more ancient wisdom of humanity's most gifted and learned sages. The mythical, symbolic meaning of the raising of Lazarus goes to the core truth that simple history can never touch. We shall all one day likewise rise again. This, of course, is just a bare peek of the issues involved, but the evidence is mounting. The old literalist approach is dead in the water. Yet through this very necessary process, as we have already begun to see, something quite new and bracing and liberating is about to emerge. There's a little chill creeping up my back, But a good one. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. So what are your thoughts now, after these several weeks? I'll put you on the spot.
I figured you probably would. I don't know. It's. I'm not surprised. Like I told you before, when I found out about the Council of Nicaea, I thought, oh, right, this is like politics.
Yeah.
You've been to a Unity Ministers conference, haven't you?
Many,
Are there politics?
everywhere,
Are there egos?
big,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it all love and spirituality?
Among a few of us,
Yeah.
like us sitting here at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have said this to many people. In my time knowing Bishop William and his priests, now they are esoteric,
What does that mean?
meaning they study metaphysics like we do.
Oh, okay.
So they do not look at the Bible literally.
Literally, uh-huh.
Which we don't in Unity. So we have that in common. Yes, they do ritual, which we don't. And yet if you do something every week a certain way in the service, it's a
It's a
ritual.
ritual, yes.
Exactly. Taking up the offering is a ritual. Singing the hymn is a ritual. Anyway, and these guys, these people, they are not paid. There are no professional priests in the Liberal Catholic Church. No one is paid for doing what they do.
How do they live?
They have jobs in the world.
Oh, I see.
But they call themselves saddle making priests. I mean, they're like they have jobs like Paul did.
Tent maker.
Tent maker. Yeah.
But he wasn't. The women made the tents
Yeah. Yeah. That's
in that culture.
That's true. Anyway, in my connection with William, I have met, I'm going to say every priest that they've had in 20-some years I've known them. And I said to William, I said, I like these people. I don't like a building full of Unity ministers at conference. I don't. Their egos. I don't see. I don't see this thing. I don't see the. I've been at conference and had people bragging about how big their churches were, how much money they made, all kinds of. You don't hear any of that. They're dedicated to the work, or they wouldn't be there, because their only salary is the joy they get from doing what they do, being of service. That's a wonderful thing. Mm-hmm. We have ministers who have had to give up other jobs, and so they took ministry. Ex-lawyers. I've had some, lawyers who were defrocked, and they became Unity ministers. Mm-hmm. And they were just as much scoundrels as Unity ministers as they were as lawyers.
Yep.
I have really, over the 20-some years, loved these people because they feel real. Sue's met most of them over the years. Wonderful. Except Smith, Bishop Smith.
I don't remember him.
Oh, he's the one I was always afraid of.
He's forgettable.
He was amazing.
Are you sure I met him?
Yes, you did. Yes. When you were at the retreat that we did at that place.
You know the place.
Yeah. Anyway, he was there, Dimpna. Remember Dimpna played the organ, and Dimpna was his wife.
I never met him. I did
Yeah,
not
yes,
go
you-
to that.
Yes, you did. You and I went to that thing up. I can't remember where it was. It was a northern state, and we were on a campus of some kind.
That wasn't the one outside of Milwaukee, was
Yes, yes,
it? Okay.
yes.
I still don't remember that
Yeah,
person.
anyway,
He was probably forgettable because he wasn't impressive.
he probably had no interaction with Sue other than being there. I mean, I remember we were at one table and he was at another with other people, but he had been actually a steel worker. That was his career, and he was a good man. He was direct and honest. But I just always kind of thought he had something, some reason not to like a unity minister in his midst. I don't know. But I was always just a bit leery of him. Not because he was a bad person at all.
Where was this church?
He's Chicago. He was from Chicago. Yeah.
I thought maybe that one, I might remember that.
Best episode.
Reminder.
Thank you. I will.
And what about the one that the son-in-law is such a doll and the rest of them are harpies?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I didn't
Well,
intend to. Yeah.
that's just the people they married.
Yeah. Brian
Yeah,
is
right.
is a priest. He's in Colorado. First time I was at one of their events, I met his wife. And she was kind of psycho.
That's why it closes down.
I said to one of the other priests, I said, Carolyn was with me. And they had been told, she knew that I was a unity minister. And she apparently didn't like that. And she was cold and weird. And I said to this other liberal Catholic priest, I said that she sure doesn't seem to like me. He said, "Oh well, we all know she's nuts." Yeah, she was affected, very affected, when she went down front for communion. She dropped to her knees like a stone. Other people are standing up or kneeling at the railing.
Get back up again.
It was just so much drama.
Dramatic.
Drama. But her husband is a prince, absolute prince.
Yeah, he's a doll.
Maybe it's his karma or her karma. I don't know. But anyway, I'll give you the next piece next week. Let's see what it's going to be.
We'll be here next week, but then we'll be gone for 2 weeks.
Okay.
You'll be gone for 2 weeks? I'll miss you.
I'll miss you too. Thank you for missing me. I appreciate that.
The portion is seeing the Gospels with new eyes. Sublime myth is not biography. And that's the title of the chapter. That It's, there's that, and then was there a Jesus of history? Then there is a portion, the only way ahead. We'll see if what pieces of those we want to do. But the Bible, that's what did I say next week is, I don't remember. Okay,
Okay.
well, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us.
I didn't put him on the spot.
I will clear out the forest of chairs.
Be
Next
on the
week,
spot.
Okay? Thank you.
ask you what you think of all of this.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
What do you think, dear? What do you think?
Well, I've gotten used to it. It was shocking. Then I got used to it. So that's the way I think now. New way of thinking.
So you kind of feel like there's some reality here.
Yeah.
Poor Bud, I ripped him out of a. He went to
Presbyterian.
Presbyterian church.
Who did?
I did.
Bud did.
Oh, I thought you went to Baptist.
I did.
Oh, okay. You went both.
I was untrue.
But he had lost his job, and was I pregnant then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pregnant, and they were going to do away with my job, and he was scared. And I said, Bud, I'm going to call Silent Unity. And he said, don't tie up the phone. Somebody might call with a job. And I said, Bud, it'll be all right. And that was the beginning of his his new way of thought. And there was a new job.
Yeah.
And
He does good, you know.
I know he does. I know.
Yeah.
Job paid $400 a month.
$400 a month. That's what the government pays me.
Well,
Yep, we know about that.
Yeah.
they paid me $325 to go to school.
Ah.
So I went to school.